On the handouts that I handed out, a little bit about irises and little diagrams, the anatomy of an iris. If you're buying irises online, they'll use terms like standards and falls. Standards are the petals on the top, and falls are the petals on the bottom. The fan is actually the leaves, but the way they grow, you can see they grow like a fan. So the fan usually means one plant. And then the way they grow, so you can probably see better on this one. When you divide your irises, the iris that bloomed, this would have been the stem, from the iris that bloomed this year for me. So this is, and then this one goes. So this one's not going to bloom again. But what the irises do is they make new ones. So for every one iris, you could get 2 or more new iris. To plant an iris, you need it to actually be the rhizome, which is the fleshy part here. These are the roots under here. This is not the root. This is actually more like a storage mechanism, like a bulb would have. So it stores starches in the fleshy part. This is what feeds the plant for the next year to make the blooms. And obviously to make the plant. So this piece, unlike a bulb, a true bulb, needs to go on top of the soil. So when you plant an iris, you actually are going to leave the rhizome on top of the soil, and then you're going to dig 2 little lines or whatever next to it for the roots to go in, and then just sit it up like that. Open them up. The roots go down, but the rhizome itself stays on top of the soil. So this, you're basically going to make trenches, and then sit the rhizome on top, and then put the roots in the trenches. All you have to do is get some mulch. Okay. Put the mulch down on top of the soil. Take your rhizome. Just nestle it in. When you plant irises, you're going to be planting them, unlike bulbs, you're not going to be planting them in the spring. You're going to be planting them generally in August is when they'll start shipping them. They're sending out their leaves now, which means you're going to have leaves all winter. So technically, they're evergreen. They work in reverse. So they start to die back, like this is the stem, and the old leaves. Normally we would just cut these off, but I wanted to show them to you. From this year's flowers. But these are all new. This is all growth that these irises put out since I dug them up in September. Irises do need to be divided at some point because they do this, they make more, and they crowd each other out. And that for some strange reason, if they see a wall anywhere in the vicinity, they'll just take a beeline right for that wall to make it really, really, really hard for you to dig it out when the time comes. There's several other types of iris. You've got Japanese iris, Siberian iris, flag iris or wildflower iris. They can become a little invasive, so you want to watch on those. Maybe just put them in a pot or something if you want, in a wildflower area. And then Louisiana iris, which everybody refers to as swamp iris. They do not need to grow in what can grow in water, but they don't need to grow in water. So Louisiana iris, they are a native iris. So they are a true native iris. Bearded iris, or German iris as they're also called, are not native. If you want to grow native plants, Louisiana iris would be good. They have a flower that is as wide as the bearded irises are tall. Bearded iris, the flowers can be like this long. There's several different types. There's a dwarf, an intermediate, and the talls, which is mostly what I grow. The talls are anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. When they send up those flowers, they're going to be 3 to 4 feet in the air. So they're great for like a background. But the Japanese, the Siberians, the Louisianas, and the wildflower flag irises, they grow like most bulbs. You would plant them in the spring, they would bloom, you would have the foliage, which is more of a grassy-like foliage, you would have that all year, and then they would die back in the winter. Whereas these will work in reverse. So. Any questions? The iris borer, okay. The idea of planting the iris above the soil level, okay, is so you don't get iris borer. Iris borer will attack iris that are planted too low. That is the worst thing you can do, other than having no drainage. You have to think of them like bulbs. You know, you don't want to put bulbs in a wet, soggy area. They will rot. You know, there's all this starch in here. It's just going to rot in a wet area. So to prevent iris borer, just raise them all up and get them up out of the ground, and then you'll pretty much eliminate iris borer.
Yes. Are there variations in when they bloom? Are there earlier and later?
Yes, and it actually goes by size. Bearded irises, they bloom for me in like March, April. The intermediate sized iris, they're about that tall, and the stems are like really thin. They bloom they will actually bloom like a month or so later. And then the tall beardeds, the ones that are like 3-4 feet tall, they bloom Memorial Day weekend. That's why they bloom together. They will give you an idea, you know, but it goes by height, you know.
The iris shell on the bottom, we
Yes.
said it had the rhizome that's...
Okay, yeah, so like this was the rhizome that bloomed this year, is the end of the stem. Yes. There you go. This one is done. This is not going to do anything for you. Okay? Now you have 2 new plants and you can spread them out. I mean, these are the roots. You can see the nice, white, healthy roots. These are the actual roots. Not this.
What do you do if you find a tuber like half out of the ground, the roots are still in, but the tuber's out?
That's fine. I mean, they want to be out. Because it doesn't want to be under the ground. It's not like a true bulb, you know, like tulips or daffodils or whatnot, that want to be under the ground. These are rhizomes. They are different. They want to be up in the air to, you know, hang out and chill.
I have a lot of irises. I've had my gardener like spread them out, but how often are you supposed to divide them?
I do it every year.
They're very crowded.
Yeah, see, they don't want that.
Do they spread out themselves?
Yeah, they because this, you know, like I said, you start with 1, it makes 2 or 3, and then they just keep going.
Right. Is it high maintenance? Like, am I supposed to be dividing them every
Yeah, I would divide them. Like I say, divide them, give them to your friends. You know,
Does it make it grow more, or does it?
Yeah, well, it's gonna make them flower more. It'll make, you know, but when they get crowded, you get air circulation problems. You can get rot issues. Yeah, you want to spread them out because they've made more for you. You know, I do it every year only because I literally have over 100 irises, but. You know, and like I said, brought a whole box in, share, everybody.
When I first started gardening, my father-in-law was a big iris person, and he had a big clump like this. He always told me to take it from the center, which is the older plant. Is that true? Or?
The best thing to do if you have a clump would be to go in there with like a spade, lift the whole thing out, and then you can go and you can see. Because you'll see the offshoots, you'll see the new plants. You know, and you can snap all those off, and then this can be discarded. I do have like 12 hours of sun. So if you are trying to if you want to compensate, maybe you're not getting quite as much sun, so you're not getting quite as many buds, then you might want to compensate with a little bit of bone meal or something like that. Never use a high nitrogen fertilizer on irises. You will rot them out. When I moved to Huntington and had rocks and sand, basically, the drainage, that's what they love. I mean, they bloom. I used to get 4 buds per plant in Locust Valley. I get 15 now. The plants will tell you, you know. You just have to be able to read the cues. But they want drainage. and they want serious drainage.
No compost, no rich ones.
You don't have to. I mean, I've been improving my soil because obviously I need to grow something besides irises. Yeah, they don't do that great. The other irises, the Siberians, the Japanese, Louisianas, they are great cut flowers. Tall beardeds, not so much. They maybe a day you'll get at it.
I try.
Yeah, no, they just these stems are hollow, and I think maybe it's a surface area issue. So when you cut them, they're not gonna draw as much out of a vase. I'm not really sure that tall beardeds do not make good cut flowers. If you want good cut flowers, go with one of the other ones, the Japanese, the Siberians.
Do these other kinds, the Japanese and Siberian, last longer on the stem? My impression is the bearded lasts one day per blossom on the stem.
No, my beards last weeks.
I have a leaf bloomer, and my son got so excited, he was about 14. He called up Cornell and Ithaca to tell them that my mother had new plants in the garden. They explained to him that someone, no, you have to see this.
Well, it's going to be a trade-off, because if they're going to put energy into making that second bloom, they are not going to make more.
I'm going to thank Ann.